We are. Let's make sure. Recording in there.
Just talking to the people right now.
And we are live. Welcome to the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. Yes, look at us, the Three Men of the Weave, in a fancier little do-rig, I will say. If you're listening on the podcast form, this makes no sense to you, but trust us, the production quality has improved since the normal podcasting, I don't know, visuals, Jimmy. We have been experimenting behind the scenes as we are doing a best bet show on this channel every single week. We wanted to get it looking a little bit nicer for the folks. So if you're a visual learner, Jim, Matt, come join us at the YouTube channel, Three Man Weave. See our lovely faces as we talk through our weekly podcast. Matthew, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm great. Kai, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm an audio learner myself, but I hear that most of the youngsters these days are more visual type of digesters of information. So hopefully we can kind of check all boxes, bring everyone around the college hoops hearth and learn, sit and learn, have a round table fireside chat of sorts.
Jim, how are you?
I'm good, Kai. I'm looking at our little feed, and it's maybe we're zoomed in, so I wonder if the video quality is a little weaker for the folks. But you know what? That's okay. It looks good, and we've got a little more. We're still working out the idiosyncrasies of it before we have our own production on our best bet show. We're excited about it though, so we will stop belaboring the visual elements because this is an audio medium. Let's get into it.
If we are a little bit blurry, I will fix that on the best bet show on Saturday. Yes, this is the podcast. Okay, this is not the best bet show for those asking on YouTube. We are sorry. We will be talking about some games at the end of the show though. But no, this week's podcast, today's show is about what we saw the last couple days in college basketball. The first 2 days of the season, how exciting. We'll give our three-man thoughts. Some Weave saw that. A couple Friday game previews, some really nice games coming up this week. And then a Roots Roundup section, of course, as always, news and notes. We will be moving the review section at the end of the podcast. Got some feedback that's what most people wanted for us to do, and I agree. Let's get into the show quicker. It's a good idea. But first, we are on Twitter at 3MW_CBB. Please do follow us there, and please do subscribe to the YouTube channel, Three Man Weave. We are trying to build out this channel as we kind of transition our show into our own individual silo, we will say. Personal Corner, guys, like I said, best bet show, Spinny Saturdays. That's what we're doing until we find more solid sponsorship. Hopefully we can bring it back to a daily format. We do have something in the works in January, but it's all hush-hush for now. You can still buy the Almanac, the best college basketball preview content available, cbbalmanac.com. Check that out. And then, fellas, are you excited for the Barstool Invitational? Because I'm excited. We're going tonight at Wintrust Arena.
I'm freaking wired, Kai. It is very nearby. It is the 2 best games of the night. There really aren't. This is sometimes the dilemma I run into with going to live games is I want to watch everything. I want to be just completely swallowed up by the hoops. But there really aren't that many marquee ones, and really no marquee games besides the Invitational. It's a perfect game to go see a doubleheader. I'm extremely pumped to be there with you fellas. And Matt, we get to see your owl, so I know you're excited.
Yeah, I will just to go to Wintrust, the esteemed venue of the DePaul Blue Demons, just losing last night at home to Purdue Fort Wayne. Notwithstanding, Kai, yes, FAU and the sort of work in progress, question mark, eyebrow raising FAU Owls per Dusty Mode's quotes about
Dusty
saying we're not very. He said we're not very good right now. I was like,
Dusty don't. I thought you said Dusty Mo.
Dusty Mo? No, Dusty Mo. Dusty Mo. Yeah, so we'll see. It's gonna be fun though.
Yes. Okay, let's get into the show. Oh wait, 3-man-weave.com. Jim wrote a nice little futures piece. We haven't had an article up there in a long time. Jim has one up there, so check that out, please. It's a good read as usual. An annual feature, Jim.
The old quick peek of futures. It's up there. Yeah, my kind of describing my portfolio approach to the season. I will also say I updated. I don't even think I told you guys our predictions for the year. The 23-24 predictions tab is updated with our Elite Eight, Final Four title picks, and All Americans. So just trying to make sure that thing stays current, Kai. Dust off some of the cobwebs and get the futures one up there too.
Absolutely. All right, showtime. Let's get into Roots Roundup. Here we go.
That's right, Kai. Roots Roundup, talking news and notes. And we're going to start off with the somber note that a lot of pods hit last week. Rest in peace to Bobby Knight, a titan of the sport. We're going to get into this a lot more in 3-minute thoughts. Matt is an IU grad, so he has a little bit more of a personal relationship to what Bobby Knight built.
Strikes a chord
in the sport. Yeah, exactly. We're not really an emergency pod kind of show, so we didn't hit this last week on Thursday, Friday. But like I said, we'll get into a little more discussion. Maybe Matt will give us his favorite Bobby Knight story. But that is out there. We do want to make sure we acknowledge it, what he did to build the popularity of college hoops.
Jim, should we do an ad before we continue?
Kai, that'd be great. We should shout out CBB Analytics. And it's funny because I actually, right before we got on the show, was looking at a tab for CBB Analytics. So I should have been all over that.
That's all right. I forgot to. Hey, if you haven't checked out CBB Analytics or haven't heard of it, you should. It's the best 30,000-foot view of the numbers in college basketball. More than 25 Division I coaching staffs have signed up this year to use it, and you should too as a fan, as a sports bettor. If you're a diehard fan, if you're a casual bettor, if you're a pro bettor, you will find use with this website. The different slices you can run on the data, the visual pleasantries, we will say, of the website are truly fantastic. Right now, you can use a promo code called WEAVE, WEAVE, at your checkout for $40 off your subscription fee to cbbanalytics.com. Matt loves it, Jim loves it, and I love it. Go check it out. It's very, very fun.
You know who won't like it? Just in the moment is Michigan State fans, Jim, as you mentioned.
You're going to steal my point, you little
I'm
rat.
sorry. I thought you were going to transition there. Oh, yeah, I'll set it up for you. Go take it. Dunk it.
Yeah, no, I was just looking at Michigan State shot chart, and there's a lot of blue, which signifies cold, hot and cold temperatures. Michigan State, cold from everywhere against James Madison. We'll discuss that outcome on both sides, both the Dukes and the Spartans later on. But let's keep going through the roundup here. Bill Self got a big old extension, boys. I'm not sure if you saw the numbers on this. I think it's like $50 million over 5 years, something like that. He is now the highest paid coach in college basketball. Obviously, we saw Coach K retire. He was up there in that echelon. John Calipari's right up there, but I get it, Kai. Bill Self's pretty good. He's won 2 national titles. He's a 1 or a 2 or a 3 seed every single year. He wins the Big 12 17 of the last 19 years. He probably deserves this kind of paycheck.
Yeah, boy, I really feel bad for him that the FBI investigation destroyed his credibility and his profitability. Phew, boy, that sucks for Bill, Jim. He could have gotten even more, I guess.
Really, really broken up about it, Kai. I don't know what he's going to manage. The yacht's going to be a little smaller whenever he purchases it upon retirement. So,
no, good coach.
Tears being shed for Mr. Self there. Recruiting news, real quick. Matthew, we always seem to start with your Blue Devils in this section. They added another top 25 recruit for the class of 2024, Patrick Gongba, a center big man to pair with Cooper Flagg. It is getting close to, once again, one of the best recruiting classes ever, Matthias, and I'm kind of getting sick of saying that about your Blue Devils.
Yeah, we're also really in on the VJ Edgecombe kid. How do you say his name? He's supposed to be like I'm always 10 years behind the recruiting news, but I just know that when we're in the crystal ball, a lot of blue shades, Kai, when you gaze through that lens. Yeah, legitimately like best class ever type of potential. So sorry.
I saw the Wisconsin recruit Knippel. There's like whispers that somebody might decommit, and it's like, oh, you recruited five stars ahead of me. Well, maybe I'll go somewhere else. That's not official or anything, so apologies if we're speaking for him. But Duke is just tearing it up. John Shire not skipping a beat in the recruiting world. Texas and Alabama got fringe top 50 forwards. Power forward Nicholas Cody to the Longhorns, and Nas Cunningham to Alabama. Seemingly quality fits from what little I know about them to go for Rodney Terry and Nate Oates. And then shooting guard Ja'Kai Howard to Auburn. Kai looks like another, athletic wing, pull-up shooter type that, again, fits Bruce Pearl's system, what he wants to do. We're going to talk about Aiden Holloway and his debut, that Auburn Baylor
Quite good.
game. Yeah, Holloway can play. Bruce Pearl can recruit. No surprise there. And then Bobby Hurley making a repeat appearance in this section, getting 4-star power forward Sammy Yane, right inside the top 100. Last week they had a top 100 recruit. They also got a top 200 guy, Bo Aldridge. Go Bobby, go. Kai, I don't think he's getting fired. I think he's going to be around for at least a few more years.
He'll have a lifetime contract, Jim. Arizona State doesn't care if they win or lose. They don't.
Well, we're going to see if they win or lose tonight at the
We
Barcelona
are.
Invitational. Wow, free plug.
I'm
Look
excited.
at that.
I'm excited.
Yep. Nothing in terms of injuries. No real major ones in the first 2 days. Knock on every piece of wood you can find. So we're happy to see that. Other random news and notes at Illinois, Matthew, a team that we're, kind of impressed by the depth and wondering how all the chemistry was going to work out, etc. Sincere Harris, rising sophomore, has asked to redshirt. Rather impressive that he's going to actually take this approach. They brought in a bunch of wings in the portal that really fill up that rotation, kind of veteran fifth-year guys. So this makes sense to me on both sides, and I think it could be a good sign for the buy-in that Brad Underwood has this year.
Yeah, that team just feels like they like each other a lot more this year. And so when you have a guy who's willing to sit out a year, like in this day and age, seems like a very good, a good omen, I suppose.
Very much so. Hey, Kai, that's it for Roots Roundup. So we are going to now get into, we've saw that. Quick reminder to the chat, this is not Best Bet Show. This is our podcast, our live weekly podcast. This will be up on Spotify later. But yeah, Kai, we saw that. The return of some of our favorite season segments.
Yes, we saw that. What did we see in the last 2 days of college basketball in the hundreds of games that have been played already? Well, Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt lost at home to Presbyterian, of all places, of all schools, the Blue Hose. Matthew, you bet on Presbyterian. Good job. Good job by you in your private portfolio. But yeah, they won by 6. And in fact, it wasn't really that close. Presbyterian kind of controlled them. Like basically from wire to wire. Vanderbilt had some injuries for sure. But Jim, this doesn't look good for Jerry Stackhouse being named best X's and O's coach in the Almanac by his fellow coaches last season. I haven't seen it yet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, Presbyterian, they had not won a game in calendar year 2023. Since January 1st, they were like 0-17. Obviously, they had an offseason to figure some things out, but yeah, even with the injuries, I know Lawrence and Lubin are probably two of their best 3 players, along with Mannion, but the margin shouldn't be that thin, Matt. Vanderbilt shouldn't be 2 players away from being worse than Presbyterian. That's my problem.
Just some context. Last night they started a former UC Davis transfer, Ezra Mannion, Evan Taylor, former Lehigh transfer, and then Tesos Camateros, former North Dakota transfer. So like
South Dakota.
South Dakota. It definitely has a mid-major feel to it without their top dudes. But you're right, like there's just not a lot of depth there. And I think it's a clear warning sign for coaches who want to construct top-heavy rosters. I would err on the side of the Illinois approach, right? Get too many and you figure it out and see what happens, because you can always have, that's a better part of the spectrum to land than not having enough depth.
Yeah, although, I mean, the Illinois approach didn't work that well last year.
That's true. You get one bad apple and then the whole thing can spiral. So, okay, there's really no good approach then. Just get good players that like each other. It's not that hard. It's easy. Right?
Yeah, right? Come on. But when you say it like that, it's so simple that there should be a lot more of that. But yeah, Kai, concerning for Vandy and another school in a big city that maybe should have a better basketball program also lost a bye game.
Our Blue Demons of DePaul at Wintrust Arena, where we're going tonight. Yes, down goes DePaul. They lost to Purdue Fort Wayne. It is still a sad state of affairs. By the way, Jackson for Purdue Fort Wayne, is it Jalen Jackson? First name is escaping me. For Purdue Fort Wayne. The guy's awesome.
Yes, Jalen Jackson.
He's awesome. I was like, oh my God, this guy rocks. Anyways.
Rasheed Bellows awesome. I kind of like, sorry. Anyway.
Kind of
this is a DePaul story. It's a DePaul story.
Right.
This is a DePaul story.
DePaul story. I got ahead of myself. Jim, yes?
Well, just want to, like, Fort Wayne lost all 5 starters. This isn't some amazing mid-major that brought back a great team that went into Chicago and pulled a huge upset, kind of like what James Madison did. Like, that team returned a lot more production. Kai, did you see the attendance numbers for Old DePaul?
I'm going to guess it was pretty low. I'm going to guess it was low.
How low would you guess?
1,000.
931.
Oh my gosh, that's
terrible. Yeah, I counted 200 in the stands on the FS2 feed last night.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. So, like Vanderbilt, DePaul had guys out. Jalen Terry and Mac Etienne, they matter for DePaul, but still, you got to win these games if you're a power school. So DePaul, we saw that, and then losers to non-D1 schools easily missed in the fray of the 100+ games on Monday. A couple teams lost to some non-D1 squads, and that includes South Alabama, lost to an NAIA team called Mobile. Mercer, which I was pretty shocked about. Actually, I'm pretty shocked about both these results, to be fair. Mercer lost to D2 Clark, in Atlanta.
Clark Atlanta. It's like that. The name
Clark
of the
Atlanta.
university is Clark Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. The point is, you can't be losing to non-D1s, guys. This isn't exhibition anymore. These games count. Also, San Diego almost lost to Sonoma State. Matthew, you're a Steve Lavin guy. I know you were kind of clutching your pearls and sweating and wiping your brow as he was in a
He's
dogfight
fine.
with Sonoma State.
It's a young team, kind of going to take some time out there in SoCal. Just give him a few more weeks. Let the youngs kind of come together and rally around the Gipper. I think you'll see some good things. No, I think this team's terrible.
Kai, when I see these, the first thing I do is I'm like, all right, maybe that other team is good.
Yeah.
And like I looked up Clark Atlanta, they went 8-20 in Division II last year.
Mm.
It's like, oh,
yeah,
that's not very good. And Mobile NAI, that's not great. Sonoma State was like 13-17, I think, in Division II last year, and they were up 17, I think, at one point against San Diego. It's just like, oh man, this is how you get in. We saw that is you pull a very shocking outcome that doesn't quite make three-man thoughts, but it's something that warrants mention on the pod. And unfortunately, these schools got that ignominious honor this week.
Hey, a team that almost made this section, Louisville. They made this section a lot last year. They won. They beat UMBC.
It was almost named after Louisville last year.
It was the most sure bet I've ever made on Monday. Was UMBC in that game.
Got it done though, baby.
Last one, real quick, because it's just staggering. St. Mary's beat a team called Stanislaus State by 79 points, 7-9. That's a beatdown.
It felt like just kind of watching the score tick up. I didn't waste my time watching this game, but it's like they could win by 100 if you told them like they had to. I think they pretty easily could have.
So Stanislaus State lost to Nevada by 4 points, by the way, 4 days prior, just for context as to like how insanely awesome St. Mary's could be this year. Just a little bit of a nugget there.
Wow.
Obviously 2 different games, but when you see Nevada won 84-80 and you see St. Mary's won 107-28, makes you go,
There's not
so their first game is against Point Loma, didn't they just won the D2 or D3 title last year?
They were good. They lost their coach, Point Loma Nazarene,
who's now at
Idaho. Is it Pribble or is that the Northridge?
No,
coach? I'm confused. You interviewed both these guys.
I interviewed one of them. I did not interview Newman. I interviewed Pribble. Newman is the former. No, Newman is from the other place. Point Loma. This is Pribble. Thank you. It is Pribble.
Okay.
Yeah. Incredible. Are you sure there's not 2 Stanislauses? 4 points, 79. Oh my gosh.
Go to the Stanislaus State's schedule. It has 2 L's, 0-2, 4 point loss, and can't even do that math.
4 and 79.
It's honestly insane.
No, Pribble's not the Stanislaus or not the Point Loma guy. So I'm lost right now. I apologize. I'll get my shit in order. We'll come back to me, and
thank you.
We'll be fine.
Maybe it was Sprinkle. I want to say they're one of the recent hires was Point Loma. So that's all I know.
All right, that does it for We've Saw That. We're going to 3-man thoughts, but first, an ad from Home Field Apparel. We've had this sponsor forever, guys. You know who Home Field is. They make the best collegiate apparel in the country. They're bringing out bomber jackets now. They're awesome. I really want to buy one. A little pricey, in my opinion, but they're incredible. You got to probably spend the money on it. You just got to bite the bullet and jump in there and get some cool bomber gear. Shirts, sweatshirts, even bringing hats into the fold now is Home Field Apparel. Hundreds of schools on their website. The best designs you'll ever see. They truly care about the history of your school. They're not just going to slap some logo or words onto a t-shirt. It's going to mean something to you, to your alma mater perhaps, or if you just like cool logos, like the Green Wave from Tulane. I love that logo. I bought the shirt. Check out Home Field. Very awesome. Homefieldapparel.com is where you can go to buy the collegiate gear. 15% off at checkout. First time you use it, 3MW. That's our code. Home Field, wear one for the team. And I am passing it quickly to Matthew Cox for his first 3-man thought.
Quick, it's
thoughts.
I know. Sorry. Well, I'm trying to get my facts in order here. It's Matt Logie replacing Danny Sprinkle at Montana State, the former Point Loma coach. I talked to Alex Pribble, my guy up in Idaho. So just want to clarify that. I didn't get my facts wrong with my dudes with the Almanac. My opening thought real quick. I don't want to make this any more annoying than people are probably, as it's been sort of thrown at your face if you're a basketball Twitter member. The schedule issues with day one, it's bad. My specific gripe with it, however, is the condensed nature of it. I get we're starting on a Monday, but like we need to bring back the 24-hour type of approach where at least you had games throughout the clock. If they're all bad games, right? Day ball. We had 85 games that tipped between 7 and 8 p.m. Like I still don't know what happened 2 nights ago. Like I'll find out like in a week, like, oh, so and so played pretty good against this team, or oh wow, that's like I have no idea what happened, and the whole world's like still, their heads spinning, and of course there's this thing called Monday Night Football. So I don't quite understand that. I think maybe um, there's probably some travel or NCAA rules implications I'm not privy to. So that bothers me. I also do want to kind of be devil's advocate take here, and we talk about how we make fun of these schools that lose to D2 and NAI opponents, but like you can see why coaches want to schedule these games because you play Fort Wayne and you play Presbyterian, older teams relatively, and now Tony Stubblefield and Jerry Stackhouse kind of are just like reeling, and it's day 3 of the season. So I get it, but
can I
so I
spin
don't know.
on this, Matt?
Yes, spin it back. I've spun it all the way around three times, so I'm confused where I
If
fall.
DePaul and Vandy lose to Arkansas and Cal, no one's making a big deal of it.
Right. Who cares?
The embarrassing nature is that you tried to schedule a game you're supposed to win, and you still didn't win that. So if you're not even winning those games, like just play a good one, and no one's going to think any less of you. Like I think you're playing a game with only downside, and so why not play some of these games that are more competitive early on? Because like if you take a Q2 loss, like Mark Titus and Big Cat joked out on Titus's show, like if you lose a Q1 game, you should get a Q2 win, like on the first day, like just something to like incentivize playing competitive early. I love that, like that little outlook on it. But yeah, like the risk is there if you're not a good power conference team and you're trying to play a bye game. We've seen what can happen. Right. There's a downside.
The crappy power conference teams should play each other. Actually, no, I don't want to say that because then that shoves out the mid majors that we want to see play big boys too. So there's no good solution here. It's all
schedules are. We need schedules are.
Yeah, it's just the time frames. It's too many games in one day. But I'm pushing back on the grumpy media, like, oh, the opening day of college basketball is the worst. But no, there's a ton of games. It's awesome. I'm watching tons of games at the same time. There's amazing, actual exciting games going on. They're just not involving 2 ACC teams. Belmont, Georgia State was a great game. New King, Cleveland
Bradley
State was
UAB,
a great game.
Job just said in the chat. Yeah.
Like tons of good games.
These grumpy media guys just need to bet on the games, and they would be a lot more into it. That's the problem.
Start betting. Start covering teams that aren't maybe in the top 25 of the AP poll. Just my suggestion, Matthew. But we know what draws clicks. Oh man, grumpy. Okay, but we agree. It should be amended somewhat. The
is ESPN,
that's the biggest thing we can leave you with is give us
day ball. Right. I guess this is a TV network issue, probably above our pay grade. But bring that back. The 24-hour thing was cool. Let's do that. Hawaii plays at 2 a.m. and you got a game that tips off like at 8 a.m. and let's do that. That was cool. Let's do that again.
Well, Jim, I'm just going to put it to you for your first thought here, because one of those games that was on Monday was awesome and didn't involve 2 power teams. In fact, it involved one team losing to a mid-major. So, Jim, go ahead.
Hi, that was old Jimmy Madison on top of the sports world right now. They pull off the big basketball upset while they have a 9-0 football team. The Dukes go into the Breslin Center in East Lansing, knock off a team that Matt had gotten a ton of hype. And I think there was some pushback on that hype. Should this team really be top 5 after being a 7 seed and losing their best shooter? And I want to start with James Madison before we get into the Michigan State side of things. That is justifiably the favorite in the Sun Belt. And coming into the year, they were, I believe they're pick number 1 in the Almanac. They've just got great guards. They've got more depth than I think a mid-major has any right to, especially considering some of, that Matt, you mentioned in our internal chat, Justin Amity, a key forward, is out for the year. But man, they looked like every bit Michigan State's equal in that game. And I just got to tip my cap to the Dukes for their outing on day 1.
It was awesome. Obviously, Michigan State makes 2 more threes, and this is a footnote in the podcast.
1 for 20 from 3 is important.
But it's a good night for Mark Byington, who's like one of my favorite coaches. He's been as such for a while now. I'm glad he got his moment in the sun. He was so giddy after he said on Phil 6 it's like, yeah, man, usually I go home and have a nightcap of whiskey, but I'm trying not to drink during the season. So I'm gonna double dip in the summer once we get there. So awesome coach. Kind of a forward thinker the way he plays offense. And again, a guy who puts a premium on depth, as you mentioned, Jim. I think you'll see more success blueprints come out of these types of teams, these types of coaches that play this way, that build their rosters this way.
Yep. Kai, on the Michigan State side of things, I tweeted something about Malik Hall passing up some like open jumpers in overtime. And maybe I was unfair to even pick on him because the whole team, besides Tyson Walker, just like curled up like an armadillo. And every time they got the ball in overtime was just like tossing it to Walker and be like, hey, save us, because that's all we've got right now. Like even AJ Hogard, remember all the receipts he was taking at Big Ten Media Day?
Hilarious.
Like, my man, it took you one game to curl up and cower in a huge moment. So how concerned are you with Michigan State, Kai, or is this just one game? Let's not worry about it.
A little concerned. It is kind of annoying that I'm kicking myself for declare. I thought they're going to be awesome. They still could be awesome. Let me not. I'm not going to drag them for one game against a good team. But yeah, the same Michigan State I saw last year was still here. Like AJ Hogard continues to be incredibly overrated. Tyson Walker rocks, but the other guys, they have not proven that they are top 5 caliber type of players. Having said that, 1 for 20 from 3 is insane. This team was a good 3-point shooting team last year. I know they lost Hauser, but still, they're better shooters than that. I think it's going to improve. They're still going to be very, very good. There's no need to panic.
Yeah. At what point do they start playing their freshmen though? Like that's what I want to know. Like, Carr actually got some time. He's clearly like changes the game, like just the energy, the way you have to defend him and be worried about him bounding to the hoop and getting put back dunks and all that. But like, I need more Xavier Booker. Like he barely got on the floor. I just don't want to see him get buried when I feel like he's part of the best version of Michigan State. And Izzo's just like, well, Sissoko rotates better defensively now, so we're just going to play him forever. It's like, if you're going to lose a bye game, at least let your freshmen get some lumps out there.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Hey, nice shout, Tommy Izzo, for playing a good mid-major team. Like real. Like I know it's not. Everyone else basically dodged that bullet, and you got bit by it. But you'll be better off in March, I think.
You saw why he played it, right, Matt?
Oh, because his nephew's on the staff. Yeah, still, exactly. That's fine. He still played it. Didn't have to play.
But yeah. Oh, and Izzo gets a great schedule every year, so it's not an anomaly. All right, Kai, that's my first thought. I'll kick it back to you.
All right, here I go. For the betting oriented, some tough beats on opening day and actually yesterday as well.
Oh God.
So yes, T's and P's, not going to be a little complaint section. Just want to get it off my chest a little bit. T's and P's to those who had Western Illinois plus 6.5 and Northern Iowa plus 5. Both those games lost in overtime after wild regulation finishes. I would probably put the probability of covering in regulation during the game state at like 90% plus for both those games. And then overtime, you feel pretty good about it. Both lost. Someone out there had a UTSA minus 6.5 and a UNT minus 5 ticket, and they're clicking their heels. But that's college basketball. Fantastic stuff. By the way, guys, North Texas looks very, very good. If we can just do a quick aside, their defense is still awesome. Very scary team.
The refs in the Super Pit also look very good too, Kai.
They do.
I know they've had one of the better home courts.
Biased, but I agree.
Yeah, there was like 3 calls down the stretch. Like what? And I said that about that at that decibel. UTSA too. Some home cooking down there in Texas. Maybe the Lone Star Zebras have dug in for the locals.
West Virginia, a meaningless breakaway.
Good.
Yeah, Jim's back. Hi, Jim. You good?
All right.
Okay,
perfect.
Good. West Virginia dunked a meaningless breakaway as time expired to cover. They were already up 6.
Yeah, this is mean.
Guy dunked it to win by 8. Lost plus 6 there, push. But we miss the insanity. Even though you can be at the wrong end of these bad beats, it's college basketball, man. It's 18-year-olds doing dumb stuff, missing free throws. It's good to be back in a way.
As we did at that age.
I just want to ban overtime. I just hate overtime for it just the way it skews results.
I like draws.
Yeah. I still believe there should be a way to, if you're betting an under, you pay minus 115 to get out of OT. You bet an over, you pay minus 105 so you don't get OT. And same with maybe a dog in a favorite situation. Like I want that as an option. Let's figure this out, sportsbooks. It's really not that hard to offer.
Yeah,
I do agree. There is a lot of over conservative approach offensively when the game's tied. Like, can we incentivize no overtime, like an extra? I don't know, like an extra point, like hockey, right? Yeah, something where we you set it up. I don't know.
Refs. How about that? Because the refs make
these happen. We don't need to.
Let's no.
I don't.
Let the players decide the game.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the problem. The refs are calling they called a foul on Northern Iowa to send North Texas to the line with 15 seconds left. I mean, these plays, these calls have to be called. But anyways, you can nitpick all day. Matthew, I'm going to throw it back to you. Speaking of refs, I suppose for your next
Yes.
thought.
Let's say nice things about the refs.
It's no longer a ref show, and I don't know if I want to put
Kind
all
of.
of the credit on them. It's more of a rule change that the NCAA got right. Finally, the block charge voices have been heard. Very noticeable change in the way these are being called for those who only watch the NCAA tournament, which I realize is a good chunk of folks out there that, watch the NBA or just kind of, glide in at the end of just like, man, I'm tired of these like 5'10" dudes drawing charges on a guy that's just, flying through the air dunking. Well, a lot fewer of those are being called, thank goodness. We saw a nice little boon in scoring because of this. And just watching the Auburn Baylor game specifically, like all the athletes just crashing the rim. There's no just guys jumping at the summit and just meeting and challenging shots like it should be, right? Like the verticality we've always wanted, like the NBA's done it for forever. It's just a much more entertaining product when you have guys challenging shots as opposed to standing there and taking a charge, at the last second. And it's just a lot less dangerous too. Like in a sport where we get sick of and bemoan injuries, very refreshing. I think it really stands out again in like these high caliber, super premier matchups, where you just sometimes see these teams with like monster athletes. Like, why are we taking charges against that team? So
I'm hopeful, Matt, that like the early calls are going to incentivize guys not to try to take all these charges. Like, and that's when the game actually gets a little more free flowing, and you don't have to worry about more block calls and extra free throws and stuff. If we could just get teams to guard and jump vertically, that's the best version of the sport, Kai. And we're getting closer. It's very encouraging to see.
Yeah, they've overcorrected for now. There's too many foul calls right now, but it'll correct, just like any other rule change.
I'm fine with the overcorrection if it gets a behavior change. I actually pulled some of the. Who do you think led the country in charges taken last year? Like, what team is most likely had to make the biggest change?
Arkansas.
I was just going to Jalen Williams, even though he wasn't in college last year, he still somehow led the country in charges taken.
I think he did. Arkansas is actually not on my top 50 here. West Virginia was top 4. Wisconsin's top 30, which Wisconsin, I totally buy.
Of course, had to be in there. Yeah.
Virginia.
And then Virginia was top. Where were they? They're up here too. I don't have it in front of me. They're up here too, Kai. Yes. SFA, West Virginia, Tarleton State, Abilene Christian, all the crazy pressing teams. I think they all just kind of
frenetically force you to drive and then hope they can just fall down.
All Bob Huggins, I think, kind of older school trees there. I think with the coaching connections.
Yeah.
So
and the Dick Bennett stuff too.
And
Tony
Dick Bennett,
and
yes,
Greg Gard, kind of in that. Yep, exactly.
Funny that Huggins is such a charge advocate when he was like the guy who basically instituted the flop rule. Like I feel like there's a little bit of some hypocrisy there. Anyway,
wait, the coaches that wanted a 2-time transfer waiver but then want every guy to get a waiver, they have a little hypocrisy to them. I don't believe that. That doesn't sound right.
I know that sounds off.
All right, Matt, I'm taking the ball, doing my second thought, and is another game thought look back, and that would be Auburn and Baylor last night. Probably the game of the first 2 days, Kai, both in terms of quality of the teams and quality of the game. I'm going to put almost all the credit for that on the Pentagon because the Pentagon rocks.
I love the Pentagon.
It just breeds good games. I love that court. I love the floor. But yeah, I mean, Baylor comes back from down double digits to get a big win over Auburn. I think we kind of saw Baylor figuring things out as the game went on because it is a lot of new pieces. And I think the most notable thing, I don't think their perimeter defense is suddenly great, but even like Ray J. Dennis, who I don't think is a very good perimeter defender, he has a 6'7" wingspan instead of 6'4" like Cryer and 6'4" like Flagler. There's a little bit more to that. And then Kai, they can still score. Of course, Mr. Jacoby Walter has to be highlighted here too.
The freshmen in general, man, Walter, Missy, Holloway, geez, the freshmen came to play. Also, I don't want to do victory laps and this type of stuff, but Ray J. Dennis, 86-0 rating, 7 turnovers. We said it would be a bit of a transition into the Big 12, into power conference games. I think it showed a little bit at the start, offensively at least.
If Braden Smith had a 7 turnover game against Auburn, people would never stop crowing.
Yes.
But it's Ray J. Dennis. So let's
Great game.
Matt, what was it? What was your biggest takeaway from that one? I mean,
Yeah, the freshmen
the
were
fact
great.
that Baylor, that and Baylor holding up inside against that front court, I think was pretty important too.
Yeah, Baylor still kind of has like the are we going to guard this year type of thing, but there's like real potential to get much better because of the freshmen they brought in there. Hoping we fully see a Johnny Cha recovery. I don't know if we'll ever see him back to his old self. So I like that there's at least some hope for defensive resurgence. But yeah, I mean, Aiden Holloway, and we talked about Jacoby Walter, like we were at the forefront of like this freshman class kind of stinks. I hope this is a sign of like more, but I mean, we saw some of the USC freshmen, show out too. So I hope we actually,
incredible. The
I
Kentucky
want
guys
to
were
be
really
proven
good on day
wrong.
one,
Yeah,
too.
UK were great. So I want to be proven wrong on that. I think we might be wrong. I have never been more excited to be wrong on a take.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed. Hey, here's the take I'm right about. Oh, sorry, Jim.
I think both those teams are top 25. I think Baylor, somebody mentioned in the chat, like 40-1 or something. Like, I don't know if that's great value or not, but they do have a high upside with Walter. And if Missy is that good, and somebody said he wasn't even like feeling well last night. If that's true, that's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm intrigued by Baylor because they have a great coach as well.
Agreed. Yeah, if the defense is solid, then yeah, I agree. VSIN asked me that question, Jim, on this week, and I was skeptical about Baylor's defense before last night, and I don't think it was great all around, but there's ceiling there now. There's upside, right?
Yeah.
All right, my second point. Coaches, why are we having our non-shooting bigs handle the ball at the top of the key?
This is a tear your hair out kind of thing.
I know this is an offense. So many coaches are doing it though with guys that cannot play this position. Northern Iowa insisted on putting Justin Hudson up at the top of the key and swing the ball through him. He bobbled it several times. The offense was incredibly clunky, and North Texas licked their chops when he got the ball at the top of the key. Drexel did this with Amari Williams, a non-shooter, good passer, but a non-shooter and a guy who was crushing LaSalle in the post. They let him off the hook. Side note on Drexel, Amari Williams, one of the worst motors I've ever seen from a basketball player. Just lazy, not posting up, not hustling, not demanding the ball late in the game. Justin Moore, horrible decision maker, horrible shot taker. He's not improving this season so far.
Kai loves Drexel is the takeaway here.
Holy cow.
Yeah, Drexel's
watching that team. I was like, what are we doing? The offense is brutal. Okay. Frank Martin last year, Levesque at UMass, same exact thing. I don't know how many turnovers I watched Levesque have at the top of the key. For no reason should he be having the ball up there. Mike White with Georgia, Chiwa, Deloach are handling the ball on the perimeter. It's maddening. All these offenses have struggled in the past, and all these offenses will continue to do that if they do it. It's ridiculous. If the guy can shoot and handle the ball, great. But if he can't,
Nebraska mastered this last year with Derek Walker. Like, if you have a skilled passer, this offense rocks. But if you don't, it looks terrible, Matt. It like drives me nuts.
I think you can get away with it, and I feel like there's specific types of action we should be citing correctly here for the X and O nerds. But like, you can get away with it if the defense is not going to pressure that big, and so you can just kind of hand it off and let the guard come off, and there's no like if you're playing its drop coverages.
That's the idea.
Like Purdue, it's like it's easy, right? Because there's no pressure there. But like, I think you see more coaches, more good defensive teams with personnel, like North Texas. I mean, just the worst type of schematic matchup there. Where like they're going to pressure you wherever you are on the court. Nothing is easy. No pass is easy ever. And so if you have the big guy that's constantly harassed for 40 minutes, like it's going to be a clunky offense. And I think there needs to be some adaptation from these types of offenses that kind of, invert the floor at their big. I think is, smart, intuitive, but it's got to be adaptable to pressure-based defenses. Because, I'm with you. Like, there's nothing more frustrating than watching a big guy in basketball do something he's not supposed to do because it never really goes well. And that goes back to my big man bias, and I'll never put that to bed. So I will be prejudiced against big guys.
If you want to play this way, you have to recruit to it. This isn't an offense you can put on whatever personnel you have. It has to be recruited to.
Your big cannot have stone hands. You cannot have stone hands. Like, can't freak out when the ball's coming to him. It happens so many times. It drove me crazy. Okay, last three-man thought. Around the horn we go. Matthew.
Yes, we'll talk about the general. Quick tribute to him. I feel like there's a lot of controversial double-edged sword type of commentary out there on the Twitter tweets and all over. I'm just a huge fan of his, and I want to just kind of give a quick moment to him. As a new age millennial podcast, I think sometimes we don't always pay tribute to our roots, to our forefathers who have come before us. Bobby Knight, one of the pioneers of the game at my esteemed university, Indiana University. He is a legend there. And yes, his faults are well documented, and he had probably, he did have too much power while he was in his throne at IU, but his influence on the game, I think, is second to none. And just the way his players like loved him, like revered him, like I think I'll always forgive some of the other shit that he did just because like he changed the lives of like so many dudes that played for him. Like watching the Purdue IU game like gets me in waterworks every time. Like 100% hit rate. They showed it last night 5 times in the broadcast during the FGCU game. Just brings me to my knees. So just sad to see him go. And I think Fran Fraschilla made a good, very apt take. Him and Dean Smith, two of kind of the most influential coaches on this generation of coaches currently out there.
And they're kind of different.
And very different,
super,
right?
super different
Yes.
sideline mannerisms. Yeah.
For like Bobby Knight was motion offense, man-to-man defense. You do one thing and you execute it perfectly, where Dean Smith was more like be adaptable and change and mix Steve, like two very opposite ends of the spectrum, both equally successful if mastered in their own way. So good, fun dichotomy there. But RIP Bobby, and shouts to the Knight family.
Very good, Matthew. Very good. Jim, your final thought.
Final thought is some macro trends. I've seen it discussed in our chat a little bit here. Generally, against the spread and over-under stuff can, I think, kind of hint at what's going on in the game. So first of all, Kai, overs are 74 and 54 this year per covers. I believe 6 of those are overtime, but maybe even 2 of those were over before it even went to OT. There's a lot of scoring, and this is a carryover from the end of last year when overs were like 58% for the last month and a half of the year. I think part of it, a little bit, is the fifth year guys. There is a little bit more skill in the sport. There are fewer freshmen playing. There's a little less sloppiness to start the year. That's part of it. And then, of course, the block charge thing is a heavy influence on it. There are fewer turnovers. Ken Palm tweeted this, that there are fewer non-steal turnovers, less charges. And there's also a few more free throws in every game. The free throw rate's ticked up ever so slightly. And so these small little incremental changes have helped efficiency go up. I don't think markets were quite prepared for it. I'm not sure how fast they're going to catch up to this. We did see Ken Palm make some sweeping changes, Kai, to his efficiency numbers to start today.
Yeah.
Curious how much that influences everything and how fast it changes. But so like basically what I'm saying is don't go auto bet overs because of this. I think there is going to be a swift adjustment, but it's worth monitoring. And I do think it's kind of been good for the aesthetic of watching the game.
Good for the game. Points are good.
For the game. Frustrating for under bettors.
Yes.
Yes. The free throws are insane. Not great for the game. Good for the game, not great until they figure it out, because the rate of foul calls are up and it's a free throw fest a lot of these games, and that's not fun to watch either. But
I know
they'll figure it out. I
still think we have to remember, like Ken Palm always points this out. Like I think we forget how many fouls there were like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Like it still does feel like a lot when you watch the game, but because the game kind of interrupts it at poor time. Like there's more interruptions in college basketball than the NBA generally. But I think we're going the right direction. We're getting there slowly. I applaud it.
Like what I would say too, guys, like in 2019, the free throw rate was 35%. So the amount of free throws to field goals, it's 33.1 this year. It's not like it's suddenly skyrocketed. I mean, it was 40% as recently as 2016. So there actually are slightly fewer free throws, but it is up from last year. So maybe it has jumped out. The other big macro trend, home teams are 74 and 52 against the spread this year. Maybe the return of home court. Kai, I know it's like deteriorating in pro sports quite a bit, and maybe that's because the talent level is a lot more equal in that level. But we're definitely seeing it matter with some of these big motivated favorites to start the year, and even some of the lower spread games.
Yes,
home court seems to have mattered, like you mentioned, LaSalle or San Jose State last night, a beat up team that took out UC Irvine, or Cal State Bakersfield didn't cover, but they were able to get a big win on opening night.
Yeah.
It just seems like there is some rise of home court mattering again, which I like.
Yeah, agreed, Jim. We'll see if it continues. Don't bet trends blindly, folks. Don't bet them blindly.
Yes, very, very adamant. Don't do that.
But yes, well, we'll see. We'll see how quickly books adjust. I'm curious. It's always a new puzzle every single year. All right. My final thought, Iowa, in the same vein as what Jim was talking about, home favorite smashing. Well, Iowa is still the exact same as they always are.
Franny McCaffrey.
They smash mid-majors at home like it's their job, except Eastern Illinois that one time, which was horrible.
Yeah, it was around Christmas. They were unmotivated.
Jim and I
you
were
know.
both on that game. I don't think Matt was. That was brutal. Worst bet, worst loss ever. Worst bet ever, I think.
Hey, Marty Simmons,
Yeah.
Eastern Illinois had Illinois fans
I know.
shaking in their boots, sounding the alarms, and then Illinois went on like a 50-0 run, and it was all fine. But yeah.
Yeah. So Iowa, the offense has gone nowhere. 110 points and 1.36 points per possession. That's pretty good. Peyton Sanford has ascended to the alpha status as we sort of predicted in the offseason. I'm not saying sort of. We did predict that. Iowa always has a guy that steps up when their good players leave from the year before. My gosh. They did so in a big way. So it's the same old Iowa team, man. You can expect high octane offense, maybe questionable defense, and a first round exit come tournament time. So
That's
Hawkeye
the
fans.
cycle, right? It's
You're
because
back.
they're so pissed off after losing the tournament that they open the year really, really upset. And everyone's like, wow, I was awesome. And then they do their thing and then they lose. And then they're like, all right, we're coming back. It just rinse, wash, repeat. Rinse,
Yep.
wash,
And
repeat.
I felt like kind of that first night too, there was probably some for the veterans like, hey, last time you were in this situation, you lost
Yeah.
outright to Eastern Illinois. Like, don't mess around. They got up 22 at halftime. They scored 50 plus points in both halves. Like, yeah, that's what Iowa does.
Agreed. All right, guys.
Kai,
Oh, sorry.
what's the wedding crashers line, Kai? Like crab cakes and football. That's what
That's
Maryland
what
does.
Maryland does.
That's what
Blowouts and first round losses. That's what Iowa does.
That's what Iowa does.
Yeah.
That's right.
God, 110. But Fran, you're a jerk. Like, take your foot off the gas.
Oh, they're
Come
putting
on.
up 110 against Alabama State on Friday. Put it down.
Probably, yes. Okay.
Jerk.
Let's get into game previews. Yes. Hey, if you're here for the Best Bet Show, we're sorry. That is now a weekly function for Saturday. Spenny Saturdays.
Yes.
For the time being, that is
This
where
is the live weekly pod. This is
live
just our
weekly podcast. This is episode like 328. So welcome. If it's the first podcast you're joining us for, we welcome you with open arms. We're going to talk about 3 marquee games on Friday. We're going to be using Ken Palm lines to discuss any spread implications that we like because spreads aren't out yet. Starting off, we got some really good games on Friday. Buckle in, folks. Arizona at Duke. Probably the best game. No, I'm going to say it. The best game of the week. Arizona at Duke. Ken Palm has it. Duke -3.
At Cameron Indoor.
At
Good
Cameron
Tommy
Indoor.
Lloyd. Nice job. Way to go into the lines then. I love it.
Hey,
This is good.
There's no downside to Arizona scheduling this game.
Right.
If it's a loss, it's a good loss. If it's a win, it's an incredible win. Game's going to rock. Size on both ends, talent on both ends. Both teams looked scary good in game 1. I know they played Morgan State and Dartmouth, but still. Caleb Love, Matt, are you worried? He loves playing Duke.
Yes.
He loves
Yeah.
playing Duke. What do you think? Any
He's like
early
the-
thoughts on this game?
Yeah, he's the Black Knight that I don't want to see walk into Cameron Indoor ever again, especially under the tutelage of Tommy Lloyd. I mentioned in that first game, he actually didn't shoot that much, or he was like very deferred. I mean, I think he comes into Cameron, he's going to put back the alpha hat on, and he'll probably be chucking some from the cheap seats. And there aren't very many for that game, I assure you.
No way.
It's a great matchup, though, because I think Duke doesn't really have a true 5 this year. And so I think this is the one of the few where you have a elite team with an elite true low post presence like Balo, right? Like Purdue, Edey, Kansas Dickinson, Creighton, Kalk. Like if Duke wants to put themselves, as a barometer against the best of the best with a big guy, an area where they, on paper look a little bit soft, I think this is a great test for him. So yeah, we'll see, Jim. Can they exploit that on the other end? How do they defend it on the defensive end is sort of the chess match that we'll see between John and Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, Duke hasn't played like a ton of big post threats in the past, but last year, Filipowski and Lively both fouled out against Zach Edey in the Purdue game out in Portland that Kai saw. Lively had no points in 22 minutes, fouled out. Filipowski had 14, played 31 minutes, but also fouled out. There is no Lively here, Kai. So I'm really worried about Filipowski foul trouble. Like,
Yeah.
I think Ballow's going to go at him pretty consistently. Tommy Lloyd does a great job of feeding his bigs. I think that's going to be circled on the lineup card. It's a great test for Duke. I'm glad they're playing this game. I think it's important for them to see how they fare against a giant 5-man, because that's really, you look at that roster, it's the biggest question you come up with. There's great guard play. There's all-American caliber talent inside and out. But how do they fare against this kind of a center? It's a good test after last year. They did not pass it. I do like Duke in Cameron though, and I don't think Arizona's quite as much of a finished product with like the Caleb Love thing getting integrated, and Duke just brings back so much from last year. I do have a lean towards Duke. I think to get the win. We'll see what the actual spread is when it comes out, Mr. McEwen.
Mark Mitchell's stat is huge for this game. Absolutely enormous for this game. So it sounds like he's up in the air, had kind of like a last second sprained ankle. We saw how important
he just keeps doing that before games. Stop
Shire
it.
sounded like, I know, yeah, Shire sounded kind of like frustrated in the quote. Just sit down and don't warm up, I guess, or warm up very gingerly. I don't know what to tell you, Mark, but we saw how much that crippled Duke's size against a brutally physical Tennessee team in the tournament last season. So I don't think Tennessee's that imposing, but Keyshawn Johnson and Omar Ballo are some mean individuals, and they can potentially punish the Devils on the glass.
Matt, who is the better coach?
I mean, I think Tommy Lloyd's proven to be the better coach, but like in a one-game matchup, maybe John Shire slows it down, and I think that's where you've seen Tommy Lloyd look more mortal than godlike in slower possession-type games. Although Duke was pushing against Dartmouth, so I don't know. There's a lot we don't know about this game, right? Schematically and just matchups. I think it's why it's we can prognosticate all we want, but I think it's definitely we'll learn. We're gonna learn something.
Better coach, Billy Donovan, John Shire.
Ooh, John Shire probably, Jim. What's Billy Donovan says? Is he going to get fired from the Bulls? Is he going back to college?
Probably, yes.
Oh, yeah. He'll immediately be a top 5 coach in college.
Come on back. We'll have you, Billy.
All right, game 2. Tennessee at Wisconsin. By the way, Wisconsin -2 per KenPom. Little respect for the Kohl Center. A nice little venue up there in Madison. Defensive lover's dream. Both teams are elite on this end. Physical game. Maybe low scoring, but both teams put up a lot of points in game 1 and played a decent tempo. Could have been their opponents for sure. That influenced that a bit, but they didn't. There weren't slogs. We'll say that first couple games. Jim, the Badger home floor is no joke. Again, I'm a little surprised. I'll be surprised they're favored in actual markets, frankly, because this Tennessee team, we've seen them against Michigan State in the exhibition, saw them against Tennessee Tech. They really have no flaws right now, in my opinion. Connects a star and Ziegler's ramping up. Scary, scary team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Wisconsin maybe jumped out to people because holy crap, they scored 105 points.
Right.
Like that's just not what the Badgers do. But they were playing an Arkansas State team that was down 3 rotation players and still wanted to get into a track meet, and it just did not age well at all for the Red Wolves. So I think maybe Wisconsin's slightly overvalued in a lot of the advanced metric stuff. So I'm with you. I believe Tennessee will end up favored in this game. I think it's going to be more of a rock fight. I think Tennessee having that shootout with Michigan State in the exhibition, I thought the offense looked really clunky against Tennessee Tech in the opener. I watched a decent amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
It took them a while to get things figured out, and Tennessee Tech's defense is not good. So that was actually more concerning to me. Matt, it basically was like, all right, we gotta just turn to our mid-major guys, Gainey and Connect, please help us. And hey, that worked against Tennessee Tech, and Connect, I am all in on. I think he's very good. I think this is a game where Gainey struggles a little bit against a super disciplined, much more athletic defensive team than Tennessee Tech, at least. Wisconsin isn't bursting through the roof with athleticism, but I think this is going to be a grinder. Tennessee probably pulls it out, Matt, but you know what? I'm going to go Wisconsin. I'm going to pick Wisconsin to win here. Get that.
I have a confession. I'm in on the badge now. I turned a corner because
welcome, my dear boy. Welcome.
Like the AJ Store situation, like really intrigues me because it's one of these situations where you have muckier, grindier type of team that brings in sort of an offensive breath of fresh air. We'll call it. Dalton Knecht being a prime example for Tennessee and what he's done. But Store is like going to be, I think, as impactful for the badge. And I saw that Connor Segan got hurt, so he could really have some big minutes if he's out. But like that really opens up this offense and just gives them a dynamism that I didn't think they had. And I kind of thought he might be good, but I think he's going to be very, very good. So that's kind of my thing to watch. It's like just 2 fun up transfers, we'll call them, 2 of many that are kind of joining these grittier premier programs. They're just really good and they matter. So I think we actually see more points than you think in this one. I think Wisconsin wins it.
Is that backhanded St. John shade to call AJ Store an up transfer?
Yeah, well, it was because before Rick Pitino got there, it was basically a mid-major program the last couple of years. So sorry.
Wow, both you guys back in the badge. All right.
Yeah, I'm in.
Can we word it differently than that?
Back in the badge. No, this is what we're saying.
No, I don't want to.
Badge addicts. Yeah. Last game. and then we will read reviews if you want to stick around for that. There's 3. They're not very long. One's a negative review. Huh. Okay.
Yep, gotta hit that.
Virginia versus Florida. It's in Charlotte. Shout out Pat in the chat. Virginia's -2, neutral floor, obviously. And they're also coming off a 30-point win against Tarleton, which people might say, Tarleton, no big deal. Tarleton's a physical team, man. They are a trip to the dentist. Not a fun team to
Gonzaga
play.
like
Yes.
2 years ago or whatever. Yeah.
Even this year, they might be a little bit down, but still, 30-point win against them was impressive. Is it concerning? I saw, sorry for blanking on the name, but on Twitter, a Virginia fan was a little bit concerned that Jordan Minor didn't have a very big role for Virginia. He was kind of expected to be the starting 5 for that team, and they went with Groves and Dunn in the front court. Don't know if that matters here. Matt,
Dunn's awesome. Doesn't matter. Dunn's better.
I am a little bit worried
Dunn's better.
about Virginia's size, though. Florida's huge, and we're Florida biased. This roster fits extremely well together. Kugel was incredible in game 1. I think he's incredible in general. But does Florida have enough shooting on the other end? I think it's a size issue for Virginia, maybe shooting for Florida until they prove it. Your thoughts?
I'm not worried about the pure height thing for Virginia. Like, even their freshman, Leon Bond, is like a physical specimen. Like, him and Dunn both play way bigger than they are. You have Groves in there. I think Virginia schematically is going to be just fine. Big picture. In this matchup, though, I think I like the Gators. I'm just very high on this team. They missed like 20 free throws against Loyola Maryland in the opener. They should have won by probably 40 in that one.
40.
No Zion Pullen, though. That's kind of one of their key shot makers. You'd like to have him for the Gators. I worry that sometimes their offense, it could get a little bit sluggish without that type of shot making, but I think there's still enough firepower. I think they're just a little bit more sure of what their identity is, honestly, than Virginia, which sounds weird about a Tony Bennett team. But I think Virginia has more younger contributors. I don't necessarily trust this early in the year relative to Florida, all, mostly older, grizzled dudes.
Hey, they only missed 15 free throws out of 30. So
what was it? Was it 15 out of 30?
It was.
That's bad.
Yeah,
that's no good.
tough.
I'm going Virginia here,
Lose.
Matthew. I think the style thing is going to be an issue for Florida, where they're going to get sucked into half court. It's just so hard to speed Virginia up. And I think this Florida team is very predicated on playing in transition. Like, Kugel is devastating getting downhill in the open floor, but Virginia just doesn't let you do that. Beekman is about as good a defender as you can draw up for Kugel. Maybe he's a hair small, but I think he's going to be all over him all day. And Dante Harris has really emerged into a great on-ball defender too. Bennett has sung his praises in multiple outlets for how good he is. Kai, I do think Minor's going to need to play a little bit, because I know Matt said they play bigger inside with Dunn and Bond, but man, I think the Florida front line,
you're right. It's huge.
They're huge and they're wide. Like, Tyrese Samuel is a load. Handlock is a true 7-1.
Yeah.
So that could be a slight concern. But I just think Virginia turning this into half court and making Florida figure out how to execute with new guards and a lot of new pieces throughout that roster, it's going to play to Virginia's advantage. And I think they're going to win Kai because of the pace of the game. That's going to be the key.
Yeah. Boy, tough. I'm leaning Virginia in this one. I'm sorry, Florida fans, but I'll probably be watching it, not betting it. TBD on that one. Great game, great slate on Friday. Can't wait. We will now.
This is a very much like I have no plans on Friday because I'm watching all of these.
Very true. Our actual best bet show again will be Saturday. Spinny Saturday, 10 a.m. Central is the time I think we're going to go with. So tune in for that. We will now read reviews and then sign off for the podcast. Again, we are transitioning our review section to the end of the pod to get into the show a little bit faster. It's good feedback. I've been wondering it myself for years. So if you're interested in the review section, there's some questions in here sometimes. Please stick around. Here we go.
And right now we have a 1-star review coming at the end.
Yes,
so
we do.
Stick around to hear that.
Stick around for that. I got some words for him too. Harrison Hitt says, phenomenal. Stumbled across the YouTube a while back. Wish I found the podcast earlier. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Says knowledge base is good. That is going to come back later for the negative review.
He said extensive. That's even better than good. Yeah.
Extensive and cater nicely to basketball fans. Fantastic, Harrison. Appreciate it. Bradley Fernandez. You guys mentioned how Grant McCasland had a group of intriguing pieces down in Texas Tech. With that, who do you think will be their closing 5? The only 2 players I see, per Bradley, surefire closers are Isaacs for shot creation and Toussaint for on-ball defense. Jim, your best guess at Texas Tech's closing 5.
Yeah, hard to agree with those two. Isaacs has to be in there. And then Warren Washington, I think, just kind of epitomizes the style that McCaslin wants to play. A mobile 7-footer is going to protect the rim, make it difficult on opponents to finish. So I think he'll be there. McCaslin has raved about Darian Williams, the Nevada transfer, and just his versatility, the way he gives them. I think McCaslin said it. We have 3 point guards when Williams, Toussaint, and Isaacs play. That's, I think, a little strong, but he is a good passer. He was like top 3 in the Mountain West in assist to turnover ratio. I think like he is a smart player, so I think he'll be in there. The 5th spot's going to be the tough one to figure. Cambridge gives them maybe the best combination of defense and shooting, but he's really streaky. So it could be McMillian, Chance McMillian if they need more shooting. Could be Lamar Washington if he really blossoms as a sophomore, or Matt. They could go big with Kyron Lindsey, the transfer from Georgia. They get a little more size and athleticism out there. I think that might depend on opponent, that 5th spot.
Yeah, the top 4 is all that matters. Like, you're right. The Isaacs, Toussaint, Williams, Washington, like that's go to war with those 4 in crunch time and just, pick a guy out of a half, the 5th name there.
All right, finally, the last review to end our podcast, which, by the way, this name's ringing a bell now. I'm pretty sure this guy's left negative reviews before, so he's got an axe to grind against the Weave, which is ridiculous.
Is it possible? People are asking, did we move review section to the end on this episode because it was such a prominent? People are. I'm just posing the question. I'm gonna throw it out there.
We are the least controversial like sports personalities in the country to have an axe to grind. That's our thing. We're not controversial. Probably why we're not getting gigs with ESPN.
We're fence riders. Yeah, we don't have big hot takes.
Anyways, he says, this is Brendan Armitage. It's an alias, most likely. Disappointed in the quality decline of the podcast. Perhaps the wear of trying to keep up on the whole NCAA has worn these 3 down? They are getting older after all. They are getting older. We're in our early 30s, but they clearly know less information about teams than they used to. I don't know how that's even possible to decipher. Kai and Jim especially.
There's no way it's. Oh my God.
Kai and Jim especially. Kai spelled incorrectly. Are just relying on hot takes rather than actual research. They have no opinions. Probably best not to make their opinion yours. So we have hot takes, but we have no opinions. That doesn't make sense. And thank you for including specifics when talking about the hot takes. Jim, what are your thoughts?
I thought the criticism of me would be Jim just reads stats. Like on our previews, I'm sitting here saying like rim and 3 rate and mid-range attempt percentage and stuff. Like I figured that would be like, oh, they're so dry. That would have been the criticism. I was surprised by that. The one thing I will say out of respect to this fella is it's not like the review from You Suck 10 numbers in a row.
That's true.
Like his name's attached to it.
Maybe
DM us what is specifically grinding your gears. I would love to know if there's something that has really gotten your specific examples, like Kai said, of where we're not as informed as we used to be. I'd love to hear about that because right now I feel like the only thing in my brain is college basketball stuff. I don't know anything about anything else. It's a problem.
I think it's great feedback. I think both of you should take a look in the mirror and really hit the drawing board and get better. So.
Matt wrote this review.
It's funny. I think he chose the guy who I think is most. He omitted the dude who's probably most prone to hot takes, which is kind of me.
The chat is saying that too. I think like, Matt's the hot take guy.
I think he just got the names wrong. So
I'm trying to think which player.
So great review. Great review.
Which player have we spoken kind of ill of in the past? It's probably one of their parents or something like that. There are some psycho parents out there, man. We get messages and emails. It's ridiculous. Don't do it. Anyways, a little bit of a downer in the pod. No, it's all fun and good. Next week, we're back with another podcast. This is normally our time. So Wednesdays, 1 o'clock Central. We're live on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. This will be the same channel that we do best bets from. We're trying to build it up. Like would be appreciated. Thank you very much. Best Bet Show, Saturday, breaking down the entire slate, or at least as much as we can in probably an hour or so time frame. 10 a.m. Central on Saturday. See you guys there. Till then, enjoy the college basketball.